Hello. Everybody who's on the line, we are going to get started in about 1 minute. So if you cannot hear us or see us, you can use the little chat box to let us know. All right, perfect. I think Jen and I will get started. So can everybody hear us? If you can just either say yes, or there's a little green button that says yes that you can push. Okay, great, perfect. Thanks, Erin. Beautiful. So I have Jen Goldberg with me, and my name is Jess Wallace. We are both the social work librarians. So I do mostly on-the-ground social work program.
And I cover the online program.
So we're going to talk to you today about how to figure out topics and do some keywords, and show you how you can actually view the rest of or either sign up for or view the rest of our webinar series that we're doing. So we're going to share our screen. Okay, if you cannot see our screen, please let us know. And if you do have questions during the time, you can type them into the chat box, or we will take questions probably either during the webinar or after the webinar. So keep them written down. Go ahead, Jen.
All right, great. So welcome. We're going to get started at the library website. So this is an excellent place to get started with your research. Some of the basic information you'll find here is our contact info. You can call the library, send us an email, or chat with us, depending on what your needs are. So, and just down below at the bottom of our website are some quick links that you may find helpful, not just for the classes that you're currently in, but in the future here at Simmons. So some of the things you can do with us are reserve a study room. You can access our course reserves. You can request an interlibrary loan, and we will explain that process later on. You can meet with a librarian, and we'll also show you how you can meet with us. But going back to the top here, here you'll find our library search, which is a one-stop shopping search box where you can search journals, books, videos, a lot of things that you'll find there. But for today, we're actually going to explore one of our research guides designed for your program. In the future, however, if there's a database that you prefer to use and you just want to go straight to it, you don't have to go through our research guides. You can click on this databases icon here, and that will bring you directly to our database list. But for now, let's click on research guides, and from this screen, you can either choose subject.
Sorry, we didn't set our thing to admit people automatically. Actually, let me just do that very quickly now so we don't have to keep stopping.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
We just need to allow other people to join us.
Okay. Perfect. Take it away, Jen.
All right. So those of you who just joined us, welcome. We're just navigating the library website and locating the research guide for social work, which you'll find helpful not just for today, but throughout many of your courses. So once you've clicked on research guides, you can click on subject, and this brings you to the next screen where you just need to scroll through this alphabetical list of options to find social work. Where is that? Here it is. So you'll find it here. And once you have chosen the guide from the menu, you just click go, and the guide launches on a new tab. All right, so before we dive into this guide, one thing I would like to point out to you is how you can contact us after today's session and throughout your semester. Here you will find our email, Jess and I's email, where you can reach out and contact us. So we're going to show you some nifty things that are going to help you with your research. But if you have any questions throughout the semester and you just want to talk to one of us one-on-one, we'd be happy to meet with you. So that being said, you know how to contact us. Let's get started. So at this point in the semester, you're probably thinking about your first research assignment and thinking of a topic. And sometimes thinking of a topic can be the most challenging part. On this Getting Started page, you will find some handy reference resources, hand-selected for social work and beyond. These are helpful for exploring some ideas that perhaps you're unfamiliar with, or you just like to get a little baseline knowledge of, and you'll find those here. I also like to point out that you don't have to think of this as just a place where you go to get started or to get an idea. You may discover as you get into more in-depth research articles later on that you may encounter a new concept or idea that you just like a little baseline understanding from, and that's when it's also appropriate to hop on over to these resources here. So I'm just going to quickly click through them and show you what some of these are. The first thing I wanted to show you is Social Work Reference Center. So this is a reference resource where you can get familiar with some topics in social work and just get started from there. Just quickly clicking around. One of the more noteworthy aspects of this resource is that if you're still kind of trying to like get an idea for a topic, you can see what's currently trending. And if something jumps out at you, you can just go on through and explore it. If you are interested in homelessness in children, when you click on that, it brings you to some search results that give you a little bit of background information and beyond. Going back to our guide, let's see. I'm not going to go through every single one. I certainly welcome you to do so on your own, but I'm just going to kind of click through and show you some good ones here. The Points of View Reference Center can be especially handy if you are looking at a trending issue that has a bit of controversy tied to it. You can get information from various perspectives on a topic, which would be great if you're working on trying to defend a point and you're looking for some sources that will highlight all the different perspectives with that issue. So let's just click on one. And here you'll find, looking at airport security and body scanners, what this issue is, who are the parties involved that have a perspective on the issue, as well as the history of the issue. So this is definitely something worthy to explore. Even if you do have a little baseline knowledge on it, you may discover something new that will just really help frame your research question in a way you hadn't thought of. Okay, so going back to our guide, Credo reference is something you may be familiar with. It is a multidisciplinary resource. However, it links out to more encyclopedias than you ever imagined ever existed. So you could type in what you're interested in here, and your search results will show you various encyclopedias that let's click enter, and let's say you're interested in substance use disorder. You may discover some related information, such as alcoholism or other related topics. But as you can see, you'll not only find encyclopedias, but dictionaries that define the term, and perhaps some related terms to it that might help you brainstorm keywords for database searches, which we will show you next. So this is a great way to discover keywords that you may not have thought of yet. And let's see, CQ Researcher is another resource that you might want to explore. Again, it highlights a topic, it gets you familiar with what some of the pros and cons are, what the current situation is, and perhaps a little history of what's been going on. So that being said, you know how to contact us. You have some resources for exploring your topic and getting to know your topic. The next thing that we would want to talk about is perhaps searching for articles on your topic. This Articles on Your Topic tab, if you click on that tab, that will bring you to the next page of the guide where you can do a deeper dive into some databases that are either specific to social work or helpful for your topic of choice.
Awesome. Thanks, Jen, for that overview. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how to use those databases and what they are. So you'll see our main databases for social work are going to be PsycInfo, PsycArticles, Soc Index with full text is great. PubMed, we do have Medline in our search, and I'll show you how to do that. There are a couple of other ones that I'll show you, but these are kind of the main databases. So if we click on Soc Index with full text, you can also get to that from the main library page by going directly into databases. You're going to basically from here, kind of construct your search, do your search, find your articles, kind of make sure, trial and error, make sure that your search is working, that you have great keywords, and that they're actually finding all of the information that you're looking for. Before you actually start doing that, however, what I want you to do is to always go up to choose databases. So this is in case you ever go into any of these databases that are on this list, you're going to get this choose databases button. And basically what you can do from here is do one search across multiple databases instead of having to go into each individual database and doing the same search. It's just not worth your time. So the databases that I would recommend are Academic Search Ultimate, always. That's because that one is a very generalist database, and it has some of the top journals from pretty much all disciplines. So other than that, if you have a topic that's related to medicine at all, or specifically nursing, you can always click on CINAHL Complete. So I'm going to click on that because our example topic, which is substance use disorder, obviously has a lot of overlap with nursing. So in addition to that, I would click on Medline, and then Psych Articles and Psych Info, which are both on that list. And you can always, if you're curious about what a database is, you can always hover over the little talk button, and it'll tell you a little bit more information about that. We can also add Social Work Reference Center, which Jen showed you before. And Social Index with Full Text is, of course, the one that we chose in the beginning, and so that's already on there. So then we're going to click OK. So now is the fun part where you have to figure out how you might find your topic by brainstorming basically as many keywords as possible. So we're going to use the example of substance use disorder. So a great way to do this is to grab a friend, a spouse or partner, and just kind of brainstorm out loud with them. So what do you know about this topic? What other words are related to this topic? And what's your actual question? So we can say substance use disorder. And if we do a search just on that, then we have to ask ourselves, what about substance use disorder? So for this example, I'm going to type in substance use disorder in the top line. And then Jen, do you think you could help me kind of brainstorm other ways to say substance use disorder that might mean the same thing?
Oh, well, let's see. So we have substance use disorder. I guess another concept that could be captured in that would be perhaps substance abuse.
Mm-hmm. So using the word abuse instead of use disorder, which I think may be sort of an outdated way to say that.
Yeah, unfortunately, old terminology hangs on, so sometimes you have to consider other options.
Yes, exactly. Yep, addiction is another good one. And so you can see that a lot of these words actually come up when we type in substance use disorder. So one of the advantages about of doing the library search is you'll get some examples of other words that you can use. So they do come up here. However, I would always recommend typing in your first term and then typing the word or, and then you'll get a list of basically all of them that all of the words that other people have either searched for in relation to this, or that they've pulled out and said okay, this is exactly the same thing, basically. So we're going to choose this one.
I wonder if dependency would be another term that could be appropriate for this.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. So if we basically have all of our terms that we've just selected, we can also add more onto the end of it just by typing or, and then we type dependency. So the way that I would structure a search is line by line, basically concept by concept. So the first concept is the substance use disorder itself. If you have, a specific substance in mind, you can also add that here. You can say or alcohol or alcoholism. But this is going to be for my purposes. That's good enough for me. So you'll see the and on the way down. So basically, you're asking this database to pull anything that has the concept of what's in the first line, any of those words, and the concepts of what we're going to put in the second and the third lines. So what I would like to know about substance use disorder is how it affects teens in Massachusetts.
Okay.
So if I'm going to type in teens, are there other ways that I could say teen?
Oh, young adults.
Young adults, maybe adolescents, young people, youth maybe.
Yeah.
So if we type in teens and then then we get a lot of those options. So we're going to choose this one. And then finally, I'm looking for Massachusetts. So I'm going to type that in. But, maybe a lot of the studies that are in Massachusetts are going to take place in or have some connection with Boston because of being the biggest city in the state. So we're going to see if we can get something extra with Massachusetts or Boston, because basically if they didn't mention Massachusetts or Boston in any of the abstract or anything like that, we're basically capturing both ideas with one search. So the other thing that you can do here before you actually search is to click select a field. And you can basically search within, like if you have an author that you know specifically that you're looking for, you can choose the author field if you have an author in the search box, but I'm going to choose title. So what it will do is basically search for any of these words in the first line in just the title. So that basically means what we're going to get is exactly what I'm looking for. And I'll do title here too. So maybe Boston or Massachusetts is like a little less important to me. I just want to find information about the first two. And then we do our search and we wait for a moment. Okay, so I got 507 results. And I think a question that we get a lot is, how many results is a good number to have? So I would say, I would kind of determine that by just taking a quick look at your first page. And is that what you're looking for? Is that what you're not looking for? We're not going to get too much into that right now. We have another session on searching. But this is a pretty good number of results for my topic. And as I'm kind of looking down at them, they look pretty good. What do you think?
I think so. Just browsing the titles, which is a wonderful way to see at a quick glance if the things that you're pulling up in search are relevant to what you are searching for. It looks like it's some good information there.
Yeah, I agree. So I would say this is a great search. I will just very briefly mention the limiters on the left-hand side. So this basically goes pretty far down. There's a lot of ways you can limit this search. But a big one that folks like to use is by the publication date. And then peer-reviewed is a good one too. So just kind of take a look at that as you're searching. I do also want to mention that if you ever want to save your search and go back to the exact search, if you click on this share button, and then on my computer, which is a very small screen, you go down to, scroll down to permalink. So if you copy and paste that link somewhere and either send it to yourself or put it in some note that you have, that will take you back to this exact search with, I believe, all of your limiters and everything that you have specified. Mm-hmm. So that's a really good way not to lose your search.
Yes, and especially if you're pressed for time and you just don't have the time to go through your search results at that very moment, you can use that permalink to share the link with yourself so that you can refer back to the spot and take the time that you need when that time is right.
Yeah. And then also if you have a partner that you're working with on your project, it's a really good way to share search results with your partner. And we will have a future session on citation managers, but I love using Zotero for that as well. So if you are looking for information about that, we'll be talking about it then. So kind of to recap and to kind of just talk a little bit more about keywords, Jen, how would you recommend that folks brainstorm keywords?
I would say start with your research question and see what words jump out at you. Perhaps it's a noun or something that just really stands out that captures a part of your topic. Try to see if you can find 2 or 3 and then go from there.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. I also like to look through the search results, and if you click on this, any title basically, you're gonna get, if you scroll down, and well, maybe not on this one. So a lot of the results that you get are going to have a list of search terms or kind of pulled out words that they consider to be subjects, and you can add those to your search. You can also read the abstract and kind of take a look at that. I recommend, like I said, talking to a friend or even yourself in the mirror. Like that could honestly help. You just get a little bit of feedback. Yeah, so that's all for our for today's topics and keywords section session. But I do want to, I'm just going to click back to the social work guide. So in this blurb on top, this is how you're going to find this recording afterwards. If you click on the sign up here button, you're able to register for any of the future sessions, and then that's the second page on this guide. And then if you go to the first page, the recordings will be available here. So we'd love to take any questions from anybody in the audience. You can either send us a question via chat or come off of your mute setting and ask us a question. All right, so if we don't have any questions, I'm sure you will. So again, Jen showed you how to get in touch with us, and we are extremely happy to talk to you at any time. There's usually somebody in the library who can chat with you, and feel free to reach out to us so that we can let you know about other resources. Otherwise, thank you so much for coming and listening, and we hope to see you at our next session. Thank you.
I'm sorry, one question.
Yeah, of course.
Which one of you help the online students?
That would be me.
That's Jen.
Jen?
Yes.
Yes, great question.
Okay, and Jen, are you available? Is it during like normal business hours, like?
Yes, in fact, if you are interested in meeting with me and you'd like to work out a time that works for you, just send me an email and we can figure that out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Too.
Yeah, of course.
And I might have talked with one of you just this morning, but if there's something from one of our professors in our syllabus that we just cannot find, would you prefer for us to contact our instructor, or can we shoot a message over to you folks and just say, like, we're not getting, it wasn't like, I think maybe I had something up in a database when I wasn't intending to, and maybe that's why it wasn't coming up, but can you help us troubleshoot something quickly on the fly if we just can't pull something from our syllabus?
Yeah, so oftentimes, and I don't know if this is the case for you, Erin, but oftentimes what will happen is that what you'll be looking for is actually a book chapter, and it looks like an article, but then you actually have to search for the book. So this happens a lot, and we can either help you figure that out, or it's also, if your professor is pretty kind of, easily accessible, they can also either send you the link for what they're talking about or help you find it.
Yeah, that happened today. So
Yeah.
I got what I needed, but I didn't know who should be our like first line of bothering if something wasn't working out.
Yep. I mean, we're here. You can always send us a chat,
Okay.
and a reference librarian will answer you.
Okay.
So I hope you found what you needed.
I
Yes.
did. It was fine. And I think I was, when I was initially searching, I think I was in a database that I didn't realize I was searching a database rather than searching in the right spot. And I think that's why it wasn't coming up now that we went through that I'm like, I think that I was on the wrong screen.
I see. Yep. If you're doing just like a general, like looking for an article, I would probably recommend just going to our regular library page
Mhm.
and putting the article title right in the library search.
Yeah.
So for the future.
And is the best way to get to that homepage from our dashboard on connections, or?
I would honestly just bookmark it separately.
Okay.
Because you don't want to have to go through that every single
Okay.
time.
Yeah, that makes sense. So just like we would with our email or whatever.
Yeah, it's just simmons.edu/library. So you can also Google search it, it'll come right up.
Okay.
Yeah, great questions.
I think that's it.
All right, anybody else? All right.
All right.
So thank you again.
Thank you.
And yeah, stay tuned for more. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
And did it record? I hope.
I think it did record.